So we are in New York.
Yes.
And I'm in my second conversation for today
I believe so.
with, more than anything, my friend. So I think this conversation is going to be interesting because it's a lot of the conversations we have when we speak on the phone and when we meet around the subject in an area that we're both so passionate about. Today we're speaking about globalizing the Maxhosa Africa brand.
100%.
And we are in this momentous phase or stage of having just launched. 2 days into having launched here in Soho. How does it feel?
Overwhelming, but I think it's a matter of being prepared, but there's no such thing as being over-prepared. But I think we were ready for the moment, but it's still very much overwhelming.
It's still overwhelming. So we'll capture all of those emotions as we have this conversation here today. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Buyi Mafoko. I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, speaker, and a luxury consultant. And what I do is I go around the world and I have wonderful conversations in all sorts of beautiful settings about educating about luxury because from where I'm from, which is South Africa, and Africa is a continent, we are the world or the globe defines us as an emerging market for luxury.
Yeah.
But we are also one of the biggest consumers of luxury
100%.
globally.
100%.
And we're sitting at the new home of Maxhosa Africa.
Yes.
Very, very far from home. We've flown 20 hours to be here, but it's all been very wonderful. My guest today is Ntsika, Tyatya, and he's the key custodian of telling the Maxhosa Africa brand. He's the key member of the management and executive team of driving this global expansion vision, a bold vision, I might add.
100%.
A bold, boisterous vision. And him and I share, like I said, the passion for this luxury industry and have connected in conversation for hours, just sharing about our aspirations for Africa, sharing our aspirations for the brand, and just knowledge sharing, because I think we meet at a point of understanding the responsibility we have
100%.
to this calling. So Ntsika, you've expressed a bit of your emotions, and I think overwhelming is a really good word to capture because it's easy to sit here and mask that.
Yes, we try. I think the main thing is we try to not fully express how big the moment is internally because it might just cripple you in terms of how overwhelming it is. However, we are knowing that this is a big moment for not just us, the continent, the brand. It's definitely the next evolution.
Yeah, the evolution. So tell me how these past 2 days have played out for you and the team, just as you reflect, as you have conversations, and as you're seeing it on social media and being covered in media. I know today in particular it's in the Sunday Times, which is our South African local media. So how is it being received? What has the feedback been like so far? Because we're seeing all sorts of beautiful people walking in the store, and you'll see activity. We've got the retail is retailing in the back. There's customers in the store. There's lots of fashion and lots of paper bags flying out. So how have you been received?
For the most part, it's been a great reception of overwhelming positivity, where we're noting that, I'll start maybe from New York. There's always been a feeling of how will we be received when we land, right? And the reception has been long overdue, a great welcome. We've had neighbors coming in, we've had friends, patrons dropping flowers. We had a team of South African patrons dancing when they enter the store. So if we start from here going home, the reception has been hugely welcoming, and at home it's always been, there's a flag that's planted with us wherever we go.
An embassy of sorts.
I believe our relationship, even with the embassies, funny enough, is a beautiful relationship. They were one of the key players in making sure that we've got a great welcoming, to say, we'll bring you teams, whatever you need, we'll help with the heavy lifting, and so did our key personnel to my right. But I think the main thing, the reception has been very warm. Warm is a good word I would use. And it's been quite a beautiful way to see how the brand has evolved into not just the mind and the hearts of our people and many of our patrons.
Yeah. And I love that in this moment, we are really dropping the African luxury brand. We're purely just a luxury brand at this point.
100%. I think it leads to the next conversation of what excellence is, where you know that excellence doesn't have to necessarily a color, a creed, a nation. It's just it's based on work ethic and how people work hard. So in terms of luxury, we are wanting to definitely plant our flag and say we are luxury.
Yeah.
Full stop.
You're firmly in that place now. I think being here in Soho, I've seen just people walk in and embrace the brand purely for its offering, and the store is beautiful. The wallpaper is part of the experience. The rugs are part of the experience. So, I mean, has it always been the vision for Maxhosa to? And you guys are really, you're a brand that went global first. Has it always been part of the vision for you to occupy a space in the global fashion scene to this extent?
1,000%. I think in terms of making sure with the idea of luxury and globalization, you said it perfectly that the first show was necessarily in London, close to a decade plus ago. And so I think that always sparked a mind to then move towards embracing the global community. I would say we are a global luxury brand operating locally in South Africa and now operating globally internationally in New York.
And other markets to come, I imagine.
1,000%. So I think in terms of making sure from a global standpoint, we always knew that it is the next frontier. The how has always been something that would be apparent over time, but it's always been based on our clients, so our patrons first. So if we get our clients operating from a certain place and they're purchasing, the online and the digital wave actually heralded us and pushed us immediately into the global sphere. Because we had to deliver globally and we had to push that to become the norm. And then we realized there's a demand globally. And our second biggest market outside of the continent, South Africa, was the US, specifically New York.
Do you know how that came to be? I mean, how did the brand make its way into the US? Because you said internationally you showed in London first. Is it because you were retailing here and that just there was visibility that way? But how is it that you found that the US became your next biggest market outside of home?
Visibility, yes. So to take it a step back, we had partners who were wholesaling and were retailing our brand. US was one of them, specifically Brooklyn. We had the store, the Folklore, as well as our partnership with the Bloomingdale's, working towards LA. And these big pop-up stores, specifically in the US, helped that. However, when we did our shows from 2019 and 2018, that's always been also the seed that was planted. So we did our first show 2019.
Was that New York Fashion Week?
New York Fashion Week, specifically Pier 59. Remember it like it was yesterday. And then every other year leading up to that, there's always been something that happens in New York, be it a show. We've done a partnership and a capsule collab with Carmelo Anthony called Mellow Made, in the same year, 2019. 2021, we did another show and we did a digital show during COVID. New York Fashion Week as well. And then every other year, there's been something that was bringing us to New York with the partnership. Coming to America was also another big partnership.
Yeah, because Eddie Murphy, if I recall, wore the brand.
Yes. And that was basically being commissioned to actually create costume designs for the entirety of the actual film and part of the set. So those small doses of, big steps helped propel us to understand there's a bigger market that is understanding what luxury is, that understands that there is, there's this saying that Africa, your time is now.
Yeah.
But I think we've believed that Africa's time has
always been. It's always been Africa's time.
That's been something that's been apparent in how we brought about our messaging and also our digital footprint.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, there are many, with part of this global expansion, there are many new things you'll encounter anew. Like I imagine being approached by coming to America, the production, and you now have to get into film and costume design, as you mentioned. What is it about you guys as a team and within the community and sort of the ways of working at Maxhosa that you find is able to not be intimidated by all of these new spaces? Because I think even being here, you're going to be met with new opportunities. And how do you, what is the philosophy within the business that allows you to sort of not shy away from these big moments that are pivotal to your brand?
One word, which is apparent when you look around: bold.
Bold.
I believe there's a certain boldness that we carry as a brand, and that boldness is underpinned by a certain pride that we know that not only are we representing a country, a nation, a people, we're representing an entire continent as well. So there has to be an element of being bold and understanding that we always say our fate is bigger than our actions, and so we dream big, we have bold ambitions, and our actions catch up to that.
Okay.
So this was also that. This was a bold ambition that we announced that we're going to do this. And sometimes whether or not the announcement is apparent to the audience and us, the announcement is made.
It's made.
And then the methodical steps to make sure we go with that. So as you said, with ideally, how then do we negotiate our space in all these facets, in all these global markets? Being bold and understanding our confidence comes from being African, being luxury and understanding luxury, because it's not something that we just speak. All of these are products that we produce in-house.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we know. There's a certain confidence that you know what you're talking about and you know who you're representing. So the boldness at which we come in with is based on the fact that we know that our time was due, but we also know that we've worked hard to make sure we arrived at this moment.
Yeah, I love that, because I sense the boldness. Fear or insecurity will always be an emotion that you experience when you're about to do something great.
1,000%.
And I love that you're able to capture such vulnerable emotions, because I think people don't get to see the side of the brand.
Yes.
As part of this sort of global move, what are you planning to, and you lead the communication. So a lot of these statements are coming from your desk anyway.
Yes.
And so when you put out a statement like we're moving to New York, is it because there's a lot of work that's happened already? Or it's at that point where you're kind of like, we're going to like trick ourselves into a position, and once it's out there, we kind of have to catch up with it, as it were?
It's very tricky questions to answer, because how I answer will actually determine our strategy, which is also a simple one. To answer you, it's the first of the two, in the sense that we don't prematurely announce, even though it feels like that. We hold a lot at our chest with the work that we do behind the scenes.
Okay.
And then by the time we announce, the steps were made. Specifically speaking on New York, it's been probably close to 4 or 5 years that this has been a conversation. In the last 2 years, it's been apparent that you negotiate rent, you look into registering a company in LLC, the filing of taxes, IRS versus SARS, and what that looks like is the steps. By the time we announced, we were ready for that moment.
Okay.
It's just that now we have to then push the narrative from a social, digital, traditional media to say we are here. But it feels good to know that at the back of everything we say, we back it up with the work that we've done.
Okay.
So there is a big amount of faith. I think maybe let me put it another way, we're highly aware of the position we're in.
Okay.
And that presents itself as a big challenge if we are not ready, but it also presents as a big opportunity if we've been wanting to work on that table. There's this beautiful word that I like, or this sentence I hear a lot. I think Steve Harvey said it's like, why would you complain about having a lot on your plate if your intention was to eat?
Boom. So it's the response, it's the almost, I'd almost put it as the burden of the responsibility, but it's not really a burden.
The moment we said luxury, I think we understood where we're going, because there's 100 years of houses that have done that, some in the first couple of decades, centenaries, and we knew what that looks like as an ecosystem. Understandably, luxury is a new notion in the continent, and we are in our first decade.
Yeah, pioneering.
So to move in those and understand that that's the template at which people weigh us on. It's a big challenge. However, we would not announce it if we thought we were not ready for it.
And I think at the center of everything, the product is great. It helps if you have a great product, because it kind of and Maxhosa manages to garner this community aspect in people, which is true, I think, to a lot of our African values of being able to be communal and not individualistic. And I think you saw that play out here this weekend.
Yep.
We've got some South Africans in the store as we speak, actually.
Community is a huge part. I mean, we go as far as we've got a page that was created by a patron that helps us as a brand to share who's of the bigger community. It's aptly called
Maxhosa community
on social media, and it's one of those things that we take with the seriousness it deserves. That someone felt that there is a community of people who celebrate us as a brand.
Let's organize and collect ourselves,
and that helps to us. And so I think, for lack of a better word, we have a huge Maxhosa community, and I think it's a community of people of like-mindedness, people who are in these spaces, in this communication and retail and luxury spaces, and are able to share their knowledge, and we're able to share our knowledge. And even here in New York, I think that's what we bring.
Yeah.
I think our big thing is that we are bringing community. As we stand today, in the next couple of hours, we're going to have one of the biggest DJs in our country, and we're holding the flag high globally, the Major League Twins, to do a balcony mix.
Yeah.
And that's also like a beautiful way of people saying, that's going back to the idea of community.
Yeah.
For them to say, we will share in this fellowship and be part of the community as patrons. So we don't believe that we've got clients. We don't believe we've got customers. We call all the people who purchase from us and invest in us patrons. Because there's a certain esteem and intentionality with the idea and the word patronage, because we feel like that's what they do. And very important to note that our success, if we call it that, has been on the shoulders of such patrons.
Yeah.
That they invest in us and we invest in all of this.
In this beautiful gift. Actually, on the back of that, I mean, as the brand enters this sort of New York, which is such a, in itself, full of energy, the fashion capital, one of the fashion capitals, you know, people are very self-expressive here. And you're coming in with this big, bold brand, which has been here already, but I think you're setting, obviously, more of a flagship geographically. I mean, in this plethora of beauty that I think is already existing in New York, how are you going to come in and make sure that the brand continues to stand out and offer something unique?
The how is apparent in the sense that we're saying it's activating the space. I mean, we spoke of the idea that there'll be artists that are coming in. The big how as well is how we know that not only are we bringing culture, and we're bringing luxury and the continent, we also want to bring about a conversation that, one, as this started as a thesis project, so there's also the academic approach to how we produce things. There's also a scientific approach in how we design.
Yeah.
So the big vision is to make sure that this becomes almost like a, for lack of a better word, an embassy for our...
This word keeps coming up.
It is.
I think we must get the official naming right.
I like that. But in that sense, that creates almost like a portal to say, I want to find out about the continent. This becomes it. Or, hey, I'm South African. I'm looking towards a connection back home. We become that. But moreover, for the audience here, to activate it in a way that for them, they are able to engage with the events. Maybe in one moment, we have a podcast that's being recorded in this space.
Yeah.
We've got conversations. We do think pieces. We create shoots, we do musical elements.
You guys are pervasive, essentially.
Yeah, and I think it's important that each and every month that we are here for the duration of the pop-up to kind of like show the best of what we have. And that helps for us to determine whether this is a permanent fixture.
I want to, pick up on something that you said and just ask, how does it feel to be pioneering the growth for Africa abroad? Because you spoke about that, a full plate and just the responsibility that comes with. But how does that actually feel? And what is the thing that makes sure that you maintain kind of your commitment to it?
Feeling and the reality are two different things. So I'll speak on maybe the feeling. Overwhelming, yes, but it feels prideful to know that every step that we take is a piece of history in real time. You know, that today, as you've captured this piece, by the time the audience is watching it, we would
will
have
be in
gone so many
history.
steps forward as well. That's one element. And then the other side is that the whole point of then the reality of it is that we work hard to maintain the status quo of African luxury and being able to define luxury in excellence. So the
Excellence.
reality is that we want to know that in terms of pioneering, it's a word that we are aware that is attached to us,
Yeah.
but we're working hard to ensure that it becomes a standard.
I like that because it's opening it up.
Yeah,
It's opening it up because you don't want to also maintain that position beyond its natural,
100%.
its natural sort of period that it's supposed to live. And, which other markets do you foresee the brand finding residence in globally? Now that you're here, I think it's probably easier to.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty about maybe to share as to how our expansion sometimes goes about is that in any market that we want to enter, we start with a showcase, if I can call it that. Okay. So whenever we do a showcase, it kind of helps us understand the audience. It helps us understand the market. It helps us understand the appetite as well as what the luxury is stemming from that specific space. So maybe the shorter way to answer is to where we've done these showcases at London. We've definitely did a showcase, and then we've also followed the showcase in London with a pop-up.
Okay.
We've done a showcase in Tokyo, speaking of Asia, and we also followed the pop-up in Tokyo in Asia as well. We've recently done one in Paris, Fashion Week, and we are looking to an opportunity to do a pop-up there. So these are all spaces, and I think we want to inhabit each part and subset of a continent by having at least a flagship or a specific pop-up after a showcase, and then that way people see, do they have the appetite, and we're also able to see, is there a business opportunity there?
Yeah.
So wherever we're doing a showcase, the strategy would be creating pop-ups in those specific markets.
And I love that as a distinguisher because, as you know, of course you know, I studied this in my master's as part of my one of my academic case studies. And I particularly love, I think the distinguisher is probably the fact that you've got such a clear strategy. Yeah. How is it that you maintain to keep defining and adapting that strategy? Because it truly is, it's evolutionary. It's sort of agile. I love that about your strategy. And how is it that you maintain to, what is the process of strategizing and, year on year? I'm sure you've obviously got longer term strategies in terms of where the brand is going, but what is the process that you guys undergo in terms of defining those strategies as you move into potentially new markets?
2 words, pivot and iterate, in the sense that we trial and then we switch to a next strategy quickly.
Okay.
It's fail fast, learn fast, and then move. So we pivot. If this is not working, we pivot to the next plan, and then we iterate. If this doesn't work, we trial that. Then iteration, it helps us evolve.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And I mean, you spoke, you're speaking about Tokyo, London, and how are you, and maybe this is more a question for Laduma as when we speak next, but the adaptations that you make to local tastes, is it a process of really just coming in with the brand and knowing that it's a statement and it makes, it carves a place out for itself uniquely? Because I love that off the back of the showcases, you do a pop-up. Is that informed by really then just testing the viability of a potential market?
Yes, that's part of it. The other side
and
of
availing
it,
the brand, I suppose.
And the other side of it is seeing maybe real-time analytics based on how our audience in the global community is responding to us. If there's interest from social media, from requests, from emails, we archive that and we see, okay, this is the market that's making a lot of noise. Let's see what's happening. And that way we also are moving with something that's informed by real-time data. So that helps.
I mean, I like that. It's your brand. The brand is very cerebral and it intrigues me.
Yes.
It's a very learned brand. And I think that's probably also the other thing that stimulates and elicits something in consumers that they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
You guys just have a science about it, and I really appreciate that. You mentioned the South African Embassy or the consulate here in New York. Who else has supported you on this journey?
Well, one, the patrons, our community definitely helped us by making sure we stand up through purchasing our pieces, wearing our pieces, tagging the brand, making word of mouth. You would not understand the amount of people who tag us and share. I shared this with so and so. This is who this so and so is. I shared with this person or my partner, and then that word of mouth goes out. That's one. The entire South African community as well. We feel like home. We do get a lot of love. We do get a lot of flags. Specifically with this journey, it would be remiss without mentioning the brands that we've partnered with in creating this. So one, a big friend of ours, Ouija of Brooklyn Circus,
Yes,
who's literally
Ouija.
down the street. He's helped making sure that we've got a good statement where he shared that maybe consider this venue, maybe consider this area. Here's my landlord. Directly contact iBest at iBest Wines. Helped us to ensure that
Love
we had some
iBest.
beautiful wines on the day of launch. The consulate as well. And this is a very important thing to note that in terms of our country, the consulates all show out when it comes to us and many other patrons of the country, and also other through sports and also arts and culture. We've seen that.
Yeah.
So in Paris, we had the consulate coming in where we did our first show at the ambassador's residence, and that's a big help in production. Even here, they helped with the media. They helped bring some numbers. They helped bring a broader South African community and just say, look, how can then we assist in other elements as well? So those are key stakeholders that share our vision, and also the media that's always been with us from home to here. I mean, I'm sitting with a patron who flew for this interview to New York, who could have had it at home,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be a moment
It wouldn't be.
unless we actually had it here. So we are feeling very prideful that we've gotten a huge community that supports us in anything that we do.
And I mean, before we close, what is on your mind? We are sitting here, it's Youth Day.
Yes.
You are Black youths that are pioneering this journey for so many. We've seen Lukhanya Mdini and many other brands emerge.
100%.
Sitting here today as a father,
Yes.
as a youth, on Youth Day, 30 years of our democracy, what is on your mind in this moment?
Pride is a big word that I use a lot in this, but the one thing that's on my mind when looking at it is fulfillment of a prophecy that came before we even existed. I do feel that whenever there's always this note on Youth Day where people will say, the youth of 76 would be proud if something great is happening, or the youth of 76 would be ashamed. I do feel like for them to vote with their bodies,
Ooh.
for our existence has been one of the greatest intentional use of expression. So I think we have taken that mantle, and we're saying this is how we are expressing our country, our voice, our continent, our language. So I would say definitely pride, but feeling that the moment has arrived in which we represent our country.
I think a prophecy fulfilled. Yeah, that 30 years ago, thank you for that. The prophecy fulfilled that 30 years ago, as you're saying, they bought this opportunity for us with their bodies, with their blood. And we sit here today really enjoying the fruits, but with the responsibility of making sure that 30 years from now, we've evolved it and developed
100%.
it. And I love that it's happening on this weekend, probably prophetic in itself. And that we had the beautiful rains,
Yes.
which showered us. I said to myself on Friday, when the rain poured down, I was like, yeah, they're able to command rain.
I mean, we're trying to...
in the height of summer in New York,
Yes.
you guys commanded rain to just come and bless this occasion. So,
Blessings.
what is your ultimate luxury?
Oof. Let me give that a thought. A lot of people say time. I say time is a responsibility and sometimes a luxury, but for me, my ultimate luxury, if I had to look at it holistically, comfort.
Comfort.
I believe luxury is comfort. The comfort of knowing and if I have to go a step further, my ultimate luxury through human beings and maybe work would be the comfort of consistency.
The comfort of consistency. Unpack that for me.
If I've got the luxury of comfort as a partner and you're consistent in your language, there's a trust that comes with it.
Okay.
That trust says, I know you're going to do what you say you're going to do, so I don't have to ask you. That's luxury.
Okay.
And because you're comfortable in knowing that that's going to be executed. You take it to matters of the heart and relationships. If someone is consistent in how they give and they share and live, you're comfortable in knowing who that person is.
I trust that you say and you are who you say you are.
And there's no bigger comfort than that. Like, I'm on the other side of the world. I believe there's a comfort in the family knowing what I'm doing and what for. From my child to my partner. In terms of work, I think there's a comfort of knowing what I'm meant to be doing.
I love that. Love that for you. Love that for us.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's
Day. And you are doing the most fatherly thing by literally sacrificing to not be with them in order to make this dream a reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We finally had this conversation.
Yep.
It's also been 5 years in the making.
It's now online instead of motion.
It's been 5 years in the making. Thank you so much, my friend.
Sissy.
I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.